I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Beach Park Village Board. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gus.
Here.
Trustee Hucker.
Here.
Trustee Miller. Here. Trustee Otterson.
Here.
Trustee Siddick is absent. Trustee Wells.
Here.
Mayor Jensen
Attorney.
is absent. Clerk Zwingos and Attorney Magna.
All right. If you'd all please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have a consent agenda consisting of approval of the board meeting minutes from February 9th, bills presented for payment as of February 20, and financial report. Is there any item that the board members would wish to have discussed separately? Is there any matter that the public would like to have discussed separately? The public says no, so thank you, Mr. Public. We'd accept a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller. Aye. Trustee Otterson.
Aye.
And Trustee Wells.
All right. Trustee reports. Under my report for Building, Zoning, and TIF, I have no significant TIF development updates. So we will move on to Trustee Otterson for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Hucker, Trustee Friend.
Whoa. Wow, I made friend.
I have one item to discuss on here. It's an item that I am proud to bring before the board. We've been working on it for quite some time. If you'll recall, the last few years with heavy rains in the springtime, we've had a handful of residents in a fairly specific area that have had some sewer flooding issues. We've done a sewer relining project in an effort to try and eliminate as much groundwater infiltration that we could. We've done televising, trying to identify other problems, any number of things that have been, cleaning and everything else, but they still have had a couple repeat problems in that area. And in an effort to try and help these people with the situation, we've gone to a couple other communities and found some cost-sharing programs that they have in place for just these type of things. And with the help of our village engineer, Marcia, and using parts from, I think, a couple other ordinances from some districts and communities, we've come up with a pretty nice program in the form of an ordinance here for partial reimbursement for people who are, they need to identify that they have had a legitimate repeated problem. It needs to be inspected by the plumbing inspector, and the Public Works Department confirm that it is in an area where the problem is either has existed or is a potential. And after the work is done, we'd be willing to reimburse up to $4,000 or 50% of the cost of installing an overhead sewer system, whichever one is less. Or if they opt for a check valve system, which is the second choice as far as reliability goes, we would reimburse up to 25% of the cost, or $1,000, whichever is less for this. There are a lot of checks and balances in this program. There are also a lot of protections for the village if the money is not available. We can stop it. If for some reason we get a huge influx of people wanting to do this, we can spread it out over more than one budget year. We've identified just a handful of people that we think will be eligible right off the bat, and then if other people hear about it and want to take advantage of it, we can take it on a case-by-case basis. But this is just our way of letting them, we've kind of all sat here with a helpless feeling when these people have talked about, repeated flooding in their homes, and all appearances are that it's working correctly. There's no legitimate problem other than the fact that it's just elevation of the sewer in the street compared to the elevation of their connection in the basement, the lower level of their homes. So this has worked in other areas, and we're going to give it a shot here and try and reach out and help, a cost-sharing type thing. So unless there's any other questions, I would make a motion that we approve ordinance number 8, establishing a cost reimbursement program for assistance in the installation of overhead sewers or backflow prevention devices.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Just to add that this is not across the board for anybody who wants to take advantage of it. It's more in an area of need, or there's some kind of a need that would have to be considered.
Yeah, there's specific criteria that's spelled out. Number one priority, obviously, would be people who have documented one or more sewer backups. And, this is in the records, people that have called us with legitimate problems. And after that, a second priority would be people that can prove that based on elevation of the sewer main in the street and based on the elevation of their the sewer service where it enters their building, that there's a potential, if there's a heavy rain or some kind of a backup in the city system, or in the the public system there. So, but obviously the first priority for money would be people who have a documented problem that have been coming to us. So, our intention is also to notify the people who have been here talking about their problem, asking us for help, letting them know that this is, assuming it gets through here, that it's available, and if they're interested, they can get it done by springtime, and which is customarily the time of year where there would be issues if there's going to be. So,
Is that something staff would take care of for us, notifying those people?
I think so. I think Gina's, we talked about at the committee, she's got a list of the people who have had more than one flooding occurrence, and they've been regular callers. So she would let them know and maybe send them a copy of the requirement.
It's a good idea, too, right? Because spring is just around the corner, regardless of how it looks tonight.
Having just come out of a budget meeting, I have to ask the question, is this in the budget at this point? Have we allocated funds?
I can't tell you exactly which line item it is, but Peggy, you talked to Gene and Ken about this?
Okay.
Because we determined that they came up with a number of people who have complained and have had this problem, and if they were to all in a one-year period take advantage of the highest amount, which is $4,000, we accounted for that.
And this is a one-time, so if they elected to put in a backflow preventer, and for whatever reason that wasn't sufficient, they're back on their own again.
Right, it's a one-time thing, and it's also a stipulation built in here that if they are behind on any other payments, sewer payments, parking violations, any ordinance issues, that all has to be taken care of prior to this being awarded. So
a second item is, I assume there would be an application generated for this purpose. On that application,
I think there's a copy of it in the back here.
Okay.
About 3 pages from the back.
There is.
The one thing we'll want to clarify there is, since these are public funds, that the contractors would be having to submit certified payrolls and prevailing wage.
We talked about that. I don't remember if that's something that's covered in here.
There's a general statement, trustee, in there that the applicant will comply with all village ordinances and that, and, I mean, from that, we can assume, but in giving instructions, it might be better to specify that and again, that document can be amended at a later time. Catch up to that, but I
So we
think
could
it's
add a line item just specifying that it has to be
a prevailing wage, and they have to comply with, because it is public funds being utilized, and that's a state mandate.
Tracy, did you just make a note of that? Okay, thank you.
Also, the agreement for the cost reimbursement, that's behind the application. It still says at the bottom, Village of Beach Park signature. It doesn't identify who in the village. Remember we talked about that, too? That should be changed. Rudy, do you see where I'm talking about?
I've got it right here.
Yeah. because just by saying Village Beach Park, it doesn't determine who would be that responsible party.
Who is, I mean, if it's not stated specifically who is authorized to approve these grants, then it'll be assumed that the mayor would designate the person. If you want to specify Public Works Director, Village Coordinator, Budget Officer, then it'd be best to put that in here specifically.
Yeah, okay. I thought it should have something more
Yeah.
specific than just Village.
Yeah, well, the village is not an entity, a
Right.
person.
Right, right.
And the mayor is the chief executive officer of the village, and that would be the person that would see to the administration of this. If you want to be more specific, you can change it and specify it here.
Does anyone have a recommendation?
I think we talked about clerk.
Yeah.
Well, we
What I-
were wondering if the clerk should be the one to sign it. I don't know that,
Why?
yeah, I don't know why either. I thought maybe even the coordinator. Yeah, maybe it should be the village coordinator.
Well, we can, I mean, can we just make before we vote, just make a note that we need to come up with a decision on who needs to sign the authorization? That shouldn't,
We can always amend the ordinance. For now, there's nothing that would prevent it from working with the mayor's signature.
Right.
If we decide we want the staff position to do that, we can always amend the ordinance to permit that.
okay. Yeah, I know that as far as the initial step, when they apply saying we would like reimbursement, they have to, the plumbing inspector needs to say, yes, they're doing the right thing, and, Gene needs to confirm that, yes, it qualifies for what we're doing. But at the point of the reimbursement, I guess that's whoever signs stuff like that.
Strictly reimbursement, in other words, they pay the contractor or their plumber, and then the village reimburses when they
Right.
supply
Yes.
adequate substantiation that the bill has been paid.
Et cetera.
Right.
That's a safe way to do it.
All right,
So we just need to clarify that.
all right.
We have a first and a second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. We've had discussion. Any additional discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterson.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
And Trustee Gus.
Okay, and that concludes the Public Works report. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Public Relations and Economic Development. Trustee Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to propose that we table the documentation we have in front of us tonight because some additional information has just come to light about the suppliers and give us a little more time to evaluate before we make a decision at this level.
So we can look forward to a recommendation from your committee.
Right. We'll go back, we'll take it back to Public Relations
Okay.
once we collect the additional information before we sign the contract.
Okay. So is that a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We need a roll call for that.
No, voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Intergovernmental Affairs, Trustee Wells.
I have no report, Your Honor.
All right. Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gust.
Just one item tonight, Your Honor, just we're working on getting things ready for another good year at our farmers market.
Cool.
And as I get the rest of the information now, I'll bring it available to you. That ends my report.
Thank you. Trustee Siddick is not here for Public Safety. Does anyone have a report on her behalf? We will not have a report.
Yeah, well, in terms of public safety, just wanted to inform the board that we, through the Public Safety Committee and our Neighborhood Watch programs, currently we have 9 Neighborhood Watch organizations that we've established over the course of the past few years. I am working with the coordinator from the Sheriff's Department, and what we're actually looking at doing is coming up with an ongoing neighborhood watch date, possibly monthly, so that we can possibly bring all the groups together,
Good idea. Yep.
so we can link the various coordinators from throughout the village. So these 9 organizations that we have throughout the village will be able to come together, share information, and do brainstorming, and also connect the various parts of the city in case we're having a problem on one side of town. Those individuals will be able to communicate
Yep.
with the other parts of the village in terms of sharing of information. So again, we're looking at putting together an ongoing meeting, possibly once a month. Hopefully over the next few months we'll have that in place, and we'll probably advertise it on the website and in the newsletter to let the public know. So individuals that are interested in starting Neighborhood Watch programs will be able to come and find out more information about it, and hopefully can expand that program beyond its current boundaries. And that concludes the main.
I did see there was, Tracy, I saw that there was a date set for that disaster preparation, or the emergency preparedness seminar set up through ESDA. What's the date of that?
Monday night, 7 to 9.
March 26th? Okay, I just wanted to get that on the record too, because that's, you need to call ahead and get on a list for attending?
And it is on the calendar, so it's going to be on the website.
Okay.
It's going to be in the village link. And I thought we'd see what kind of response we get after the newsletter goes out, and then maybe send out a reverse 911 as well.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thanks for that reminder.
Village treasurer, do you have a report?
No report.
All right. Village engineer, I have a hunch.
I do have a report. This evening we have for your consideration to enter into an agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the Beach Road reconstruction project. The project is being proposed as a service transportation program project, or STP is another common acronym for it. What that means is that 70% of the project would actually be use federal funds to pay for the construction and construction engineering of the project. The remaining 30% then would be paid for by the local agency, in this case the village. The project is being proposed, would actually be a state contract. That being said, is the state would actually bid the project and would actually award the contract. Then what the state would then do is the 30% share of the village then would be billed to the village. The construction engineering services would be performed by the local agency again. So any construction inspection, observation, administering the contract would all be performed by someone at the village, i.e. the village engineer. We've also included as an attachment to the agreement the engineering services agreement. One thing to note on there, I think that we did see that the construction engineering dollar amounts on the final agreement should actually reflect what is reflected in the engineering services agreement that's attached there. We've actually, the anticipated bid date, or the anticipated letting date, that would be the bid date. We're working towards April 27th, 2000 of this year. We are currently going through the IDOT approval process in the hopes of making that date. That being said, if all goes well, construction could start in June, and if we do have good weather, we could finish the project by the end of the year. Project would actually basically reconstruct Beach Road from the bottom up. I think if you ever travel Beach Road now, you can see what poor shape it is. Basically, it's in poor shape because of the what's underneath it, and the drainage is very, very poor. So stormwater, rainwater doesn't get away from the pavement; it gets underneath it and starts degrading the pavement. It would actually put in new storm sewers, new curbs, new base, new pavement. There would also be a new, or actually included in the project actually is a recreational path that would extend the entire length. So it would start on the western edge of the village at the cemetery and basically go all the way to Sheridan Road. It would pass by the park, I think the school that's there on Beach Road, and would basically connect the bike path that's in Waukegan, that runs north-south.
The McClory path.
Yeah, would actually, there would be somewhat of a connection there through Waukegan. There is a sidewalk that makes a kind of ad hoc connection to that bike path there. So it would provide some access for the village and village's residents. I can certainly answer any questions you guys may have with regards to the project.
It strikes me that our share of this is probably not that much more than it would cost to just put another layer of pavement on the mess that we have now, and in a couple more years, we could be talking about the same thing again. Is that
Exactly.
accurate?
I mean, part of the reason for this was that the pavement, the resurfacing actually had been, I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago. Beach Road had actually been resurfaced, and almost immediately, the pavement started to degrade. And instead of just putting good money after bad, trying to fix it, the real solution actually is to reconstruct the whole thing from the bottom up. That way, you're not continually having to resurface it over and over and over again. You're actually fixing the problem once and for all.
Yep. Any questions for Chip?
I'm looking forward to it.
No. Do you require any action from the board at this point?
Well, I guess, I mean, part of the deal is that the agreement would need to be approved before March 9th.
Pretty much there.
Yeah.
So we're there.
So we've got that in front of us now,
You
right?
have it in front of you, so, I mean, you could act on it now, or actually, we should act on it now,
Yeah.
considering the time frame in which IDOT has requested the agreement to be back in order to make that April 27th letting date.
So that is the first 5 pages in our packet after the cover sheet?
Correct, and including, I would say the attachment included is also the engineering services agreement, which is noted, there's the dollar amount within the agreement itself, so it's basically an attachment too.
Well, if that's the case, then I would make a motion to approve the agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the STP project of reconstructing Beach Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the agreement. Any discussion? There being none, I would ask for a roll call.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Secondly, then, the construction engineering services agreement would need to be approved.
I would say technically, that would probably be the best thing to
Okay.
do.
And that would be the following 8 pages, following the first 5 that we just approved.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this topic? I hear no discussion. I would ask for the clerk to call the roll, please.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Then just once, keeping on topic here, there is one new item in the engineer's monthly report. We are currently in the process of doing a street evaluation of all the streets within the village. It's probably been about, I want to say about 8 years since it was last done. 8 years for roads, doing an evaluation like that is pretty much an eternity. So we are going back, evaluating all the streets in the village as far as condition. We'll use then the information that we gather to actually make recommendations as far as future resurfacing projects, maintenance projects, patching, preventative maintenance on the streets. That'll be used as the basis, the guideline for future projects.
When do you anticipate that information will be available?
The plan is to actually, obviously now with the snow, it's a little, we were hoping for continue to have good weather, but we wanted to have it done by the end of March. That being said, is we would then utilize it for this year's MFT projects
Good.
and use that as the basis. So hopefully by the end of March, hopefully there's good weather, we'll be able to finish it and be able to present it to you guys. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chip. Village Coordinator, Tracy?
First item I have is the approval of the resolution that the notification is sent to the library is certified mail on January 21st, and I did receive the receipt back that they did receive.
Okay.
I would make the motion that we...
It's Resolution 4.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution ratifying the termination of the White Way Sign Maintenance Agreement. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The second thing that is to consider an ordinance waiving form fiscal year budget, we actually do have money budgeted for a new server room for this fiscal year. So instead of using it for that room, we decided to put it for the new server. And part of my number computer help key is actually here. It's because we have a explanation of the building. The server costs and outside estimate. Any questions regarding upkeep or anything else regarding the server or the iPads or anything else?
I have a question. Jordan, is there any concern that you have about, I heard it mentioned earlier tonight about the temperature in the area where the server has been or is going to be located?
That's been an ongoing concern for 10 years. The direction that we're moving in now with the technology that we're proposing for the new server. Sorry. That's been an ongoing problem for a long time. The technology we're proposing for the new server is going to consolidate the two physical servers that are in there now into one through the use of virtualization. And the newer technologies run much cooler and with lower power requirements. So while it will still have to be addressed at some point in the future, given the fact that the new phone system added some equipment in there and everything, the actual heat load and power load on the space will go down once we make this next upgrade. So that helps somewhat. I mean, there was an idea of taking some of that space in front of that closet area, which was never meant to house the kind of equipment that's in there now, and wall it off and put some kind of dedicated cooling in there. But that's not a cheap proposition either, so...
But we're not running any kind of risk, are we, with not doing that, as far as the equipment failing or anything?
Actually, less than you are now.
Okay.
If we do it.
Okay. Then what happens to the old equipment? Does that get, can that get donated, or?
Do you have a boat? We could fill it with concrete. Use it for an anchor.
Is that bad?
No, the server's coming up on 5 years old. As with everything else, the requirements for the newer software just makes the older hardware pretty much unusable.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you could talk to the schools or something and see if they would be interested in it. If they were, and that would be something that we could do for them, then we would gratis wipe the hard drives to make sure that there was no village data on them prior to them taking the equipment. And
If not, then you'll dispose of it for us?
we'll wipe the drives and then we'll take it to a
Okay.
Recycling.
Okay.
recycler, yes.
All right. Thanks. That's all I had.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. We have an ordinance before us waiving the formal public bidding requirements for the purchase and installation of a new central computer server.
It's ordinance 9.
Ordinance 9. I'd like, we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just one point of discussion for clarification. We have the equipment cost not to exceed $10,596.73, and the installation cost not to exceed 50 hours at $140 per hour. So just for clarification, I think that's around $7,000. So that's my only clarification. Any other discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
And Trustee Gus.
Aye.
The motion that I had was that consideration of emergency waiving the bidding requirements for the sign, but we have decided to table that. And the fourth thing on my list was the DMEC update, which the winner of the bid for that was Exelon. And that was for the Green Page Road Water Tower, the Lincoln Booster Pump Station, and the Kingsbury Lift Station. And so starting the first week of May, we will be getting our, we will be voting for energy costs for those years, and that is for a 3-year term. And then the next thing was the motion to approve the sign
Thank you, Tracy. Village Attorney.
Yes, very briefly, Mayor Pro Tem Hucker and trustees, with the designation of a new budget officer, we needed to clean up a small item in your village code, because previously the code required that your budget officer be your village administrator and vice versa. And as the ordinance states, it's being determined by the board that dual qualification is no longer necessary, probably in recognition of the fact that it's a very specialized office and has very specific duties and responsibilities. So this just is a cleanup of your village code.
Plus, we saw the look on Peggy's face when she found out she was going to have to be the village administrator. Sorry.
So that would be 2012-0-10.
All right.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have to think long and hard about this one.
Less is more, Mark.
She was
Less
kind
is
of mean
more.
to me earlier tonight. All right.
All right. Roll call, please.
And Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Otterston.
Aye.
Trustee Wells.
Aye.
Trustee Gus.
Aye.
Trustee Hucker.
Aye. All right.
Now you don't have to be the administrator.
No, I don't.
Okay. Village clerk's report.
I was contacted by the library, and they are celebrating their 75th anniversary. So we have prepared a proclamation for them. I don't think anyone's here from the library. They were going to try to come tonight. So I'll enter this into the minutes, but we are congratulating them on their 75th anniversary as Zion Public Library. So
Very nice.
As being someone who has been to the library, I can say that it's a very nice facility, the old one and the new one, very nice facilities. So I congratulate them also.
That's great. Any other thoughts or discussions on that? There being none? We do have some Boy Scouts here. I would assume we're working on, I don't know, maybe the Citizenship Merit Badge? I see heads nodding. In the community. Very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome, and you're always welcome. And we wish you'd come more often, because as you can see, sometimes the place can be kind of empty.
Sometimes we have a few extra seats.
Would you like to come to the podium and share anything with us, any of you? We'd be more than happy to hear what you're working on and what you're...
oops. Do you want to sign it? I'll send it to them tomorrow.
I see they're taking plenty of notes out there.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to know what you're writing on those notepads.
I will speak to the scouts if you want.
Okay, sure.
I shouldn't have to, but I guess I will. I would like to thank Donna, because she's the one that kind of coordinates me to coordinate and come here. And then I called somebody here. Did I speak to you, the village clerk?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you as well.
You're welcome.
These boys are expected to ask questions tonight, but not in the general audience. They are supposed to interview one person about a specific question that they've raised from tonight's agenda. And then the second question is about something that they're curious about, that the village is supposed to provide a service or a duty of the village, and they're supposed to talk to somebody about that. And I harangued them that that would entail asking questions, because an interview is questions. So if they could speak to somebody about one of those issues, after your meeting,
Yep.
I would really appreciate it.
All the trustees are available after the meeting. If any of you gentlemen would like to come track us down,
I
we're
was
happy
making
to.
notes as well, and I wanted to ask one thing for the boys' benefit. You discussed a lot of things tonight about big projects and stuff that you've got coming on, and I didn't hear any mention of how much they're going to cost us as village members. So that would be something. Is that going to be in a like later on, or in your notes, or your village notes, or anything like that? Because I heard the 30%, and I'm in perfect agreement that you need to do Beach Park. For example, I live on Green Bay Road, and eventually they're going to take, half my front yard. And I don't care, well, I don't care, that's a bad way to put it. I recognize that the road has to expand. So I'm okay with that. But, I was just wondering, how much is the 30%? Do you have any idea?
It's around $900,000 it's going to
Okay.
cost us. It's
Well,
a
that's pretty reasonable.
$2.4 million project total.
Yeah.
But our portion of it's going to be between $800,000 and $900,000.
And for that lengthy a stretch of road, that's really reasonable.
And that's not the entire beach road. We don't actually own all the entire beach road. It's part of it is Waukegan, from Lewis Avenue east to a certain point.
Cemetery.
And the last time we were here, Josh, what were they talking about? What was the main thing on the agenda? What was everybody complaining about? Chris, do you remember? Flooding, that's the answer I wanted. Is this going to help address that issue?
I don't remember specifically which. We've had a couple of issues ongoing with flooding. We've had rainwater, stormwater flooding, and the one that we're addressing that I spoke about with the cost-sharing program with homeowners is related to sanitary sewer system flooding, where the water bubbles up in your basement when you have a sewer backup, basically, when there's heavy rains. Should not be connected. Rainwater should not enter into your home as a result of, through your sanitary system, because there's two different systems. Rainwater should go to a retention pond or to the creek. Sanitary sewer should stay separate because that costs a lot of money to treat it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of cross connections, we call them, of sump pumps and infiltration problems. People take manhole lids off in low areas to drain them out, and then that rainwater all ends up in the sanitary system. So we do have to deal with it in a sanitary system. So that's what we're working on with the homeowners. It's really a private problem, but it's sewer coming, from the village mains. So we're going to do a cost-sharing help with them on that. That's the flooding thing that I was talking about. I don't remember if that's the
That's
meeting you guys...
exactly the issue, and
That's
that's
the one.
very great. And it's great that you remembered. I'm proud of you. There you go. Do you remember what was the main event with all the people coming up to talk? What did they want to ask? Do you remember that? Okay. It's a long time ago. Okay, so I would just like to ask us later on, at least ask you a couple questions and
Sure.
make sure that they ask you questions.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't generally know a lot of the answers, but I'll get the answer from Larry.
And you all brought your snow shovels to work on your snow removal merit badge, because...
But that's a really good question that you raised. Whenever we vote on something that involves an expenditure, the expenditure is always mentioned somewhere within the body of the vote.
Yeah, typically it is, and sometimes on a contract like that, it gets muddied up with all the percentages and the like, but
Right.
that's a good point. Okay. Anyone, well, let's see, the mayor does not have a report tonight. Now would be a great time for any citizens, Paul, that might be in the audience that would like to address the board. None? Well, any of the rest of you? Paul was the public up until you arrived, so we named him Mr. Public. Would anyone like to address the board? Ask you to come to the podium and state your name and your case. All right.
I'll go to the podium and say, there's still time to support me in my next haircut event, the St. Baldrick's event.
St. Baldrick's.
Coming up on March 3rd.
Or St. Baldmarks, as the
St.
case
Baldmarks
may.
event. So if anyone's interested, I'd be happy to provide you with documentation after the meeting.
Hey.
Is that including you can give them free haircuts too?
No, nothing is free.
We have no need tonight for an executive session. Is there any other business to come before the board tonight? There being none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Can't take it, huh?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye.